Good morning, sewing friends. So I want to talk to you today a little bit about how I use Trello to organize my sewing patterns and kind of give you a little preview of my Trello pattern board. So Trello is a free application that's available for desktop, but it's also available for it's also available on mobile, which is really nice. So you can have it on all of your devices. And Trello organizes things in what's called a Kanban style. So it has these little swim lanes or lists, and on each list you have a card. And in each card you can have images, you can have file attachments, you can have lots of photos, you could even put videos or other links and things like that in here. You can create labels, you can even put custom fields if you want to go ahead and organize things, but it's really, really an easy tool. So I organize my sewing patterns by style of garment, but I also have a couple of other boards which I'm going to show you as we go along that help me plan, like make 9 planners or planning for vacation sewing or things that I know that I need in my wardrobe. So right here I have some categories that you might not think of as like ordinary categories. Like athleisure contains all sorts of things, pants, jackets, whatever. But I have organized athleisure here into some patterns that I feel are that I've pulled out of my regular collections here to give myself a little bit more of a focus for when I want to sew, for example, athleisure or a French girl capsule wardrobe, that kind of thing. Like I have here, I have Make 9 2023, and I also have a pin or a card here for Charleston. I'll be traveling to Charleston in the spring, and I might want to make 1 or 2 things. So otherwise, mine are pretty well organized about how you'd expect to see them, pants and shirts and things like that. And where I have print patterns, like these rose pants Made by Ray, I can actually label them as print and whether the garment is for woven or knits. So then I can sort by these 2 things here. Now, I often do have print patterns where I have pulled in the photo from the pattern company. So it's helpful to label them print and woven because it's not always that I'm taking a picture where you can see my hands in the picture like this. It's not always that I have that. So this one, for example, is print and it's designed for knits, so I would tag them accordingly. So where I label them helps me understand what I'm looking at. Now, in many cases, I also have digital files, and in that case, I have attached the digital files here, and it allows you to have any one of an unlimited number. So it's essentially like having a virtual digital pattern library that's not stored on your computer. So that's really nice as well. So I have mine organized. You can see here I have pants. It's quite extensive. I got a lot of different sewing patterns. I even have inspiration. So for example, this particular one is for the wave set, which is a Nomi pattern, but I probably will actually put the Nomi pattern, which I have in print, in here, and then I'll add this inspiration back into it. So this one's going to actually become the sewing pattern, and then there'll be some inspiration photos here. This is from the designer, and her makes and her friends makes. Ella's the designer here of this Nomi wave set that she sewed, and then there's some examples here that I wanted to save because I really like these looks. All right, so moving on, I have a lot of different categories. So vests, jackets, cardigans, ponchos and cardigans. I have tops, coats and jackets, skirts, accessories, dresses. Now, where I get into here, swimsuits, that sort of thing, where I get into here, I start adding some things potentially by designer or what I would like to call collection. So this one is my Vogue Elements collection, which is a 1990s. It was actually really the first time that sewing patterns had been produced with photographs on the cover, although we see that all the time now. This was really a pioneer. So this was early 1990s, like 92 or 93 to 95 or 96. And I have a whole bunch of these, and I think they're just still really timeless. So I've organized these into a whole category of them. I've made about 1/3 of my collection, so I still have more to go. And then if I have downloads from a particular one, like this is So News, which they just published their last issue. Well, they're going to become So Daily, so I'll put the stuff in here with So Daily. But you can see here that there's a bunch of freebies here that I have, and I have added the files here, but I haven't necessarily added images, and I will probably split these up into individual images rather than collecting them all together, but sometimes I do that just in between times. I also have a lot of free patterns. These are also free. I have a lot of free patterns. And by the way, if you are not sewing everyone's free patterns, you should be. You can really amass a wonderful sewing pattern library without spending any money at all, or spending it only on the things that you're going to make over and over again. So just a bunch of really wonderful patterns that you can get out there from tons of designers. Everybody's got a freebie. Now, I do also have a vintage collection, which is not completely filled out. You can see there's only a couple in here, but I have way more vintage patterns that I'm going to go ahead and start cataloging and getting them into here. They would all obviously be in print, but it's nice to be able to have that, because as some of our vintage stuff is coming back in style, like for example, this one here, double-breasted, oversized, slightly oversized blazer, check and check. So definitely we'll be making this one again. I made it once in the 1980s. I actually think I made the shorts in this pattern and the tank top. I don't think I made, and I might have made the pants too, but I don't think I made the blazer. So I think I'm going to do that. But anyway, you get the idea. That's how I organize my sewing patterns. Now, the really cool thing is there's an app that you can put on your iPad and your phone that allow you to also access the same thing. So for example, in this case, I have not only this image, but I have the back cover as well. And I can zoom in like this and say, oh, well, what do I actually need for this sewing pattern when I'm at the store or whatever? I can look it up and say, yes, this is the amount of fabric, or the stretch knit or whatever else that I need. I can actually pull this up on my phone no matter where I am. So it makes shopping for fabric a little bit easier if I have something in mind in particular. So that's how I organize my sewing patterns using Trello. It's free to use, although to be perfectly honest with you, if Trello started charging a little bit every month, I probably would just buy it for my business and then hop onto it with my personal. It makes it really easy to organize stuff, and because it's free and they have some really wonderful tools, like you can just take a picture and just add it directly to a Trello card. It makes it super simple to catalog your stuff. You're not taking pictures and then uploading them later. You can do everything right all at once on your mobile device. So you can take a picture and move on to the next one, take a picture and move on to the next one, which is exactly how I'm going to be doing my vintage pattern library. So that's how I use Trello for sewing patterns. So I want to show you how to use my Trello board to actually plan out my sewing, because there's a couple of tips that I want to give you about how to use this. So you can see I have wish list and wardrobe items that are missing. And then I also have this Make 9 2023, which is not even filled out yet. So clearly I haven't done anything, although I have sewed things already for 2023, which I'm going to count as my Make 9. So the easiest thing you can do is you could pick up something and say, I would like to make this one, and drag it over and put it in your Make 9. But then it's also not in here. You can also add a card and put the name, and then come into the card and add a card. And it will actually create a link over to that other board, to that other card. So you don't have to actually move your card. You can just click and it will link yourself over to your other card. So you would just click here, and then that would take you to the other card. So if you don't want to move them off your main ones, you can click here. But I don't really mind. If I'm planning a Make 9, I'm going to drag them over. And then as I make them, I'm going to drag them back. So that way I have a catalog of both what I want to make, and I'm not doing a lot of extra cards. So that's generally how I do it. So you can see here, I also have a couple things here where I've added multiples. Now this is where you might want to have, if you're going to do multiples, you may want to do this method instead, because, for example, if I'm doing athleisure pants, I might want to do another pair of track pants in this same thing, and then now I've got two. So that really does make it a lot easier to go ahead and add two cards, especially if you're going to make, looking at 2 or 3 different things that you're going to be making as you do your organization. But I think half the fun, of course, is to have images in there. So if I did that, I probably would come in here and put some images that I found on Pinterest or whatever to add into this, just simply because that's what I want to organize. And speaking of Pinterest, you can also add an attachment with a link to a pin if you want to do that. So that's how I do my wardrobe planning. And you can see here I've got several different things that I want to make for this year that I've identified. So athleisure pants are big on my list always. I also want to do a like a sort of fleece bomber jacket for spring. cream corduroy pants with pockets. That's been on my list for a couple of years, and I have the fabric in my stash. A black oversized blazer. Who doesn't need that? I definitely have the pattern and fabric in my stash. A wool-ish coat, maybe for lighter winter. I'm actually going to make a heavyweight wool coat, probably not this winter, but next winter. Just this winter's been so warm, it almost doesn't seem like we hardly need to justify it. But I might change my mind. It's supposed to get cold in March. And then you get the idea. I can have some inspiration garments here, which are remarkably similar to these. These and these, these and these. They're remarkably similar. And then oftentimes I'll put in other things here like screenshots or other bits of inspiration that I found online. And then also this is a wish list pattern for me. So when they go on sale, which they are right now, I probably will pick this pattern up because this is definitely a wish list item for me. And then this was also snipped from, online just to give me a little bit of inspiration. Ponte cargo pants run on tee, where I can put things together. Now, when I'm doing a make 9, I'm going to go ahead and organize it the same way. I'm going to drag in the 9 things I think I'm going to make from my other boards for the year. And then as I finish them, I'm going to go ahead and drag them back to where they go. So this year, I've identified that I really would like to sew this quick sew swimsuit. So I'm going to actually just bring it all the way across. And this is exactly how you do it. You just pick and drag. And I'm going to put it in here. That is something I made the swimsuit before years ago. It's a tankini, or it's a monokini one piece with some cutouts. I'm going to do the tankini version. I do make this a higher waist though. I actually modify it. So I make this a taller waistband now than I used to. It happens. But I'm going to definitely go ahead and sew this swimsuit this year as part of my Make 9. So that's one thing I've definitely identified with my Make 9 this year that I want to tackle. And then where I have things that I want to take with me. A lot of this stuff I have already sewn and I don't need to sew new things. But a lot of times I will go ahead and update a little Trello card with a bunch of different things here. And it also creates a nice packing list that if I want to, I can go ahead and print later. So that's how I use my sewing pattern to plan my sewing and keep everything organized together. The cool thing is if it's a digital pattern, which, let me see if I know for sure one of my digital patterns here. Let me go to tops. Yes. Okay, so this pattern here for sure is a digital pattern. The files are in here, so all I have to do is just click on it and open the file and print. So everything is organized for me to make it really easy for me to plan my Make 9s and go ahead and get them done, because that planning is half the fun, right?